Welcome to the party, pal, and welcome to the first installment of Andy Milligan Mania. This is my marathon review session. It's part 1 of 8. What I'm going to be doing is taking a very in-depth look at this Severin Films box set. Of course, the Dungeon of Andy Milligan. 14 films. I had heard 15, but looks like, 14 films in the set. I'm going to be looking at providing not just a review of the films, but the box set contents as well. This is the most in-depth review I've ever provided when it comes to physical medium. That's why it's going to be brought to you in 8 parts, disc by disc. So I can give you the most comprehensive and Daisuke Beppu-like review of this Severin Films release. Now, I had been familiar with Andy Milligan back in the day. I have a ton of the Something Weird DVDs back in my my DVD vault, which you may have seen if you've seen some of my DVD vault tours. So I knew Andy. I knew of him. It's been a while since I've seen those movies, so it's nice to revisit them here. Thank you, Severin Films, for making this a possibility. Andy Milligan is one of the most hated filmmakers, probably more than Ed Wood. I would say definitely more than Ed Wood. I think a lot of people get angry at Andy Milligan, and I wonder why that is. I'm curious what angers people about his movies beyond them being shoddy, or low budget, or incompetent to some degree. So I wanted to take a real in-depth deep dive into Milligania. I wanted to know everything about him, everything about his films. I wanted to Criterion Collection the hell out of Andy Milligan, and we're going to do that. Today, of course, we're kicking off with The Ghastly Ones, directed by Andy Milligan and written by Andy and Hal Sherwood. This is the first disc of the release, and it makes sense that this is the first disc of the release. I'll show you the disc just for curiosity's sake. That's the disc right there. One film, one disc. Why is it by itself? Well, it's got the most special features. I'm going to break down the special features in a minute, and I'll explain what everyone provides, and I'll give you my brief thoughts on that. Now, The Ghastly Ones is Andy's 8th movie, but it's his first horror movie. It's also, from what I believe, his first color movie as well. The Ghastly Ones is essentially an old dark house movie. You've seen this kind of movie dozens and dozens of times before. This is the, heirs of someone who's just passed head to an old dark house for the reading of a will. In this case, 3 sisters come together. Their father has died. Their estranged father has died, and they head to his home. A part of the deal in the will is you have to live at his house for 3 days before whatever the inheritance is read out. Of course, murder ensues. Somebody's trying to knock off the heirs of this particular family, and then the mystery bubbles up from there. Is The Ghastly Ones a bad movie? I'm surprised to say it is not. I thought The Ghastly Ones was a really, really good movie. There's a lot of weird things in here that I was not used to when it comes to Andy Milligan. He has this thing called swirl camera. So every once in a while when a scene ends, the camera will just go, whoa, go crazy like he fell asleep filming and the camera fell over. Like, that's kind of what it looks like. It's a weird style. And it's not something that you'd strictly find in Ghastly Ones. It's indicative of his directing style throughout. He does that in every movie, and it's always disorienting and weird. It's a weird choice to cut away from the action by just, whoa, camera goes crazy for like a solid 5 seconds, and then it cuts to the next scene. It's very strange. It's a very strange directing choice, but it's decidedly a very Milliganian touch. So you go with it. You accept it. That's just the way he likes to cut away. All right, fine. He wants to look like he just fell down the stairs. We'll go with it. The acting here is what you would expect from, for the most part, untrained New York actors. They're all theater actors. Milligan himself was a theater director. And the movie feels very stagey. A lot of his movies feel very stagey. We're going to get into it when we get deeper into his films here. but they all feel like Milligan is trying to create his own Shakespeare world. This is a modern movie. Most of his movies are medieval movies. This is definitely a decidedly more modern film than some of his other medieval movies, but it still has that stagey, proper kind of feel to it, which is at odds with the budget and the look and the quality of the movie. We're not looking at a Hammer horror movie here, even though I think he's trying to achieve that style. It's very much a low-budget, dirty, grimy, grindhousey movie. Lots of kills. There's a lot of blood in this one, but it's all very cheeseball. It's not very realistic gore, and I think that adds to the fun of it. I'm happy to report Ghastly Ones, for me, gets probably the highest score of this box set when it comes to the movie itself. This was a lot of fun. I ended up watching the movie like over 3 times because I was listening to the commentary tracks, and I really enjoyed it. Overall, I think this is a great way to kick the box set off because it delivers a really fun movie on many levels, And I think essentially if you sort of turn your critic brain off a little bit and you just embrace it. If you pretend you're in 42nd Street, you walked into a theater, there's a dude jacking off in the corner, you're like, okay, I'm going to ignore that guy, I'm going to watch this movie. You're going to enjoy Ghastly Ones. It's actually a really fun movie. And I was shocked by the end of it because I was expecting, and I have this on DVD somewhere, it's just been years since I've seen it. I was shocked how really enjoyable it was and how different it felt to stuff like the William Griffey box set. I felt those movies, it just didn't click for me. There was something off about those. Here, we get sort of lowest common denominator in the best way possible, and it's very enjoyable. It's almost like I don't have to pretend I'm trying to watch a good movie. I know I'm coming in, these are going to be rough watches, but I really enjoyed this overall. The movie, for me, sliding scale. I'm going to give it 3 stars. It's not perfect. The acting is wonky, but the plot makes sense. You can follow along. The nudity is kind of shot around. There's kind of nudity, but not really, which I thought was kind of a bummer. There's a lot of man ass in all these movies, but it makes sense because Andy's gay. You get some boobies here and there, but fleeting. You get 2 commentary tracks, technically 3, but that one's a partial commentary. I'll get to that in a minute. The first one, and probably the most entertaining one, is the one featuring Andy's presumably best friend and constant co-star Hal Borsky, who plays Colin, I believe his name is. Colin the Hunchback in The Ghastly Ones. Here he's joined by Frank Henenlotter, filmmaker Frank Henenlotter, Frankenhooker, and yada, yada, yada. And essentially it's a giggle fest. Hal is reminiscing about working with Andy and the trials and tribulations that relationship and that friendship brought. And then Frank Henenlotter sort of, he did work with Andy, but he sort of chimes in on his appreciation of Andy's movies and the struggle of trying to find prints of the surviving movies. Because, as you know, Henenlotter was responsible for tracking a lot of these movies down. It's a fun commentary. It's definitely more of like the let's grab a beer, hang out with some friends, and talk Andy Milligan type of commentary. The second commentary here from Cinephere.com, right? Cinephere.com, I'll make sure I get that website right. Keith Crocker is on here. This is the most traditional commentary track, talking about the history of Andy Milligan, history of making the movie. That sort of that fact-based commentary track that I guess we've all sort of come to know and appreciate. That's Keith's commentary track. It runs through the whole movie, and he's basically giving you all you need to know about the Ghastly Ones. Very interesting, very informative. And I love Keith's really strong New York accent. It's great. When we get to Torture Dungeon, it reminded me of some of the cast of Torture Dungeon. Then the third commentary track is a partial commentary track with everybody's favorite low budget filmmaker, well mine anyway, Fred Olen Ray. Now Fred only provides, like I said, a partial commentary track. He talks for I say less than 20 minutes into the movie. So and he's essentially talking all technical stuff. So he talks about the kind of film camera they use and all the technical issues that go into making a movie like this. But it's very technical. He also mentions how he first discovered Andy in the drive-in, with his mom, I believe. And it's really fun, very interesting, but it's almost a featurette audio that's tacked on to the movie. Once his commentary ends, he says, "Okay, guys, thanks so much for listening. That's all I have to say. Goodbye." And the movie just kind of continues playing at its regular volume. So those are the commentary tracks. My favorite is Hal's and Frank's, but Keith is the most traditional one on that one. The next we have is something quite interesting. You get an alternate title sequence for Blood Rights. It's interesting but unnecessary. I feel like I didn't need to see the exact same credits with a different title. Okay, I'm glad you found it. I feel like that's really for the Milliganese, the people who really need to see everything this fucking guy's made. Then we got Ghastly and Depraved, an interview with marketing whiz Sam Sherman. Now, he talks about specifically Ghastly Ones, how he met Hal, how he was sort of brought in to help, punch up the marketing campaign for the movie. He came up with that title, The Ghastly Ones, which is, I think it's good. I think it's a solid title. It definitely, as he says, helped sell the damn movie. So very interesting, very brief. I think it's about 8 minutes long interview with Sam discussing the ins and outs of marketing, specifically the Andy Milligan stuff. And the best thing, towards the end when the credits roll, he's showing off the original press sheets. He still has these things. The press books. Amazing. Then next on here, you get an interview with, I want to get her name right. Her name is Natalie Rogers. And this is called Talk of the Trade. It's an interview with Natalie. She worked with Milligan on a lost film called Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. Doesn't sound like it would have been, my type of movie. It's one of his early sex films, or sexploitation films, I should say, because he never really made hardcore movies. Shot way before Ghastly Ones here. It's interesting to get a female's perspective on working with Andy here, because it's really the only interview we have from a female, actress that was in one of his movies. So it's nice to see her perspective, and it sounded like, even though he was difficult, she really loved Andy, and she had a good time working with him. So that was a really fun, very interesting interview. Next up, we have a trailer for a lost Milligan film called Depraved. It runs about 2 minutes, and I gotta say, I'm kind of glad it's lost, because it looks like a very icky, awful watch of a movie. And I'm kind of glad that I'm spared from having to watch it. I mean, the trailer begins with a man putting out a lit cigarette on a woman's boob. Not my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea. I assume it did well for him, but yeah, it's that kind of movie. It's a real roughy kind of sex movie with a name like Depraved. You kind of know what you're getting. Speaking of Lost, we have one reel from the film The Filthy Five. That was the film he shot before Ghastly Ones, by the way. And it's about 20 minutes. It's the length of a reel. And it's in German, so heads up on that, but it is subtitled in English. Now, what is Filthy Five about? I don't know. I can't tell if this is the first reel or the middle reel. It doesn't really say. It just kind of starts. But I assume it's about prostitution and a boxer and an abusive relationship. It's that kind of movie. Shot in black and white. It's definitely one of his sexploitation drama movies, melodrama things. Again, not something I'm really sad about now being included here, because it doesn't sound and it doesn't look like the kind of movie I was gonna dig anyway. I certainly think I prefer his color films to his black and white films. We'll get to black and white in the next episode. I think the next episode we'll get into a black and white film. Stay tuned for that. Overall, this is the most special features packed release on this entire box set. And of course you would start here. The Ghastly Ones is, I think, probably the most well-known Andy Milligan film. Even to somebody who's never seen any of his films, they at least know the title or heard The Ghastly Ones. It's also the title of his biography, The Ghastly One, by Jimmy McDonough, which I missed out on, but everyone says it's amazing. However, I feel like I'm getting enough Andy Milligan information here with this set and the Stephen Thrower book, which I'll be reviewing in a future episode, so stay tuned for that. Great read, by the way. Great special features. It's the best version of Ghastly Ones, but keep in mind, these are all old movies that haven't been lovingly taken care of. So none of these movies on this set look amazing. None of these movies look like they're brand new. There's scratches, there's mold, there's tears, there's light leaks, there's a whole bunch of stuff that prevents them from looking pristine. So if you're going in expecting perfect restorations, you're going to be mistaken. and you're going to be disappointed because it's not here. So go in expecting it to look as good as it can look, and you'll be pleasantly surprised with the way it does look. That's the Ghastly Ones here from the Dungeon of Andy Milligan, thanks to Severin Films. Now, the party continues. That's only disc 1. We've got 8 more discs to talk about, and I may be reviewing the CD. I'm not sure. I might throw it in as a little bonus. The Dungeon of Andy Milligan. That is amazing. And that'll do for part 1 of Andy Milligan Mania here on Master Chaos TV. I hope you'll join me next time for the next installment. It's going to be The Body Beneath and Nightbirds, our first double feature. I'm looking forward to them. I've seen Body Beneath years ago, but I've never seen Nightbirds, so I'm excited to revisit Body Beneath and experience Nightbirds for my first time on this beautiful, beautiful set. Again, Severin really outdid themselves, and it's a tribute to Andy and his films, whether you like him or not. Okay, my friend, I hope this video has found you well. Remember, I love you. As a matter of fact, I love you just the way you are. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. If you do, you'd make me a very happy man. Leave me a thumbs up on your way out the door. I'll see you next time, because I remain to be continued.